to this yet. But you have to ask yourself why there isn't an open network regime applied to cable. What do we want? Do we want the incumbent telco to come along in the same neighborhood and with somebody's money spend a fortune to switch out copper? I don't know. I changed from DSL. I got off of my DSL network. It was miserable. And I switched to my cable, and now it's terrific. And I take the phone over the cable too. So there are some infrastructure questions out there that are very, very that have a lot of leverage in them from a regulatory point of view. Is my point here, because the regulation that opened up the copper networks to competition is a regulation that predates the Datacom and the Internet. And now you've got a situation where an awful lot of people are expecting the incumbent telcos to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on copper switch out to fiber, and somebody's got to pay for that. And I think that's why, and there are others here who may disagree with me and may know more than I do, but I think that's one reason why it's slow here, because BT's up against some pretty big numbers. It costs 4 times more to switch out, roughly, to switch out the copper from the cabinet to the home than it does from the exchange to the cabinet. Start adding up those numbers, and then you get big white spaces. Satellite, others here probably know more about it than I do, but you can the downlink is okay, but how do you uplink? Because the future in a lot of this is ultra high speed, two-way video. Video is a big broadband eater, a bandwidth eater, but that's where the world is headed. And the parts of the world that get there first are going to have an enormous advantage. And not only that, but they will be in touch with each other. So you will get this dynamic between the rich infrastructure parts of the world among themselves, and then those parts of the world that can't play. You know, it'll be like playing in the Premiership when you're really just a county player. There is a failure of imagination in this, and it's a political failure in the first instance. And so I think what we have tried to do in Brussels with the supply side is try to break through that failure, try to create this vision in a way that is much more compelling so that you get a buy-in. I can't say that we've succeeded really where the European Commission is concerned. It may be mission impossible, but just by the virtue of the times we live in, there are a lot of other things that look more important. But there aren't any things that are more important. That's the hard part, especially when everybody's bankrupt. So these are just some thoughts for you. Just another thought: the mobile versus fixed. We had an interesting event in Washington, thanks, as usual, to James. I mean, all of these interesting networks are thanks to James. And we had, this was in on Capitol Hill, in the Visitors Center, and we had a whole bunch of interesting people there. We had the father of the Japanese Internet. Who knew that he was the father? But there he was, and people told us he was the father. And he said, the one thing we've learned is that the more fixed you have, the more mobile you have, the more fixed you need. You know, it's end to end. Somewhere that mobile, that wireless signal goes into the fixed network, and the sooner the better, because it's more efficient, of course. And so you've got a lot to think about when you're thinking if mobile itself it just bypasses all the problems. It doesn't. It's part of the whole thing, and this gets beyond my way beyond my understanding and competence. But he then showed a map of Japan that demonstrated this, and when then we had an event with Mrs. Cruz, in fact. And we were talking to her, James, you and I, afterwards, and we told her this. We said, you know, this is what the Japanese think. And that was news to her, which was a little bit scary. But think about that as you go forward, that you can't, it isn't just about mobile and 4G and LTE and all that stuff, because all of that has to rely on the backbones as well and the terrestrial links. I've probably gone on too long here. I just come back to the fundamental point. This is about the lobby now, in my view. And I think that the supply side lobby is insufficient, this is my experience now, is insufficient to really grab the top of the political system. We need the big industries, the big economic sectors, the big social sectors to begin to buy into this. At least those who have the vision and some of the experience. And I think you could do that at a local level, you can do it at a national level, and we try to do it at a European level. And we'll see how far we get, but the cost of failure in this is high. Thank you, Frank.